Salutations, everyone, and welcome to the Poly Talk Show. Today, we have a very special guest who is going to tell us all about ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. What is ASEAN? Why have such a thing as ASEAN? What role does our country play in ASEAN? All these questions will be answered by our guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to politician Mr. Gerald.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Gerald, thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you. So, why don't we start with this? Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
All right. So my name is Gerald, and I'm a politician I represent Malaysia in ASEAN.
Okay, cool. So, can you tell us what is ASEAN? For those who don't know, who is watching at home, what are its purposes, goals, and objectives?
All right. So for ASEAN, as we know, its full sentence or full name is also known as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, where it consists of countries such as Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos, and Brunei. So that's a total of 10 countries altogether. And the purposes of ASEAN, there are four main purposes, and each purpose is very vital and important for the association of ASEAN, where the purposes is to accelerate growth, social progress, and cultural development in the region of ASEAN. And to talk about the goals and objectives of ASEAN, is actually similar to each other, where it is to promote peace and stability, while it is abiding the respect and also the development of the country, where it adheres through the principles of the United Nations Charter. And that is basically what ASEAN is about. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So before we get into the role of Malaysia in ASEAN, I think most of us are unfamiliar with the history of ASEAN. So can you please educate us on the history of ASEAN? How and when did ASEAN come to be?
Yes, sure. So the history of ASEAN, let me take you way back in time, in the 60s, where in 8th of August 1967, 5 leaders from 5 different ASEAN countries got together for a meeting. And the 5 countries consist of Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And each of the 5 countries had minister representatives. And representing Malaysia was Tun Abdul Razak. Representing Singapore was S. Rajaratnam. Representing Indonesia, it was Adam Malik. Representing Philippines, it was Narciso R. Ramos. And representing Thailand was Tenat Konam. And all of these 5 leaders were very keen in building a great relationship among the 5 countries. And this is because they want peace, they want stability among these 5 countries. And these 5 ministers signed a document of agreement where, as I stated earlier, the documents inside were about the terms and conditions, and the most important was the purpose, goals, and objectives of ASEAN, which is the purposes was to accelerate growth, social progress, and the cultural development of the region. And as I stated earlier also, the goals and objectives, where it is to have respect among each other's countries. That's the main important point of it.
Okay, now let's focus on one of the countries of ASEAN, which is our country, Malaysia. How did Malaysia join ASEAN?
All right, so how did Malaysia join ASEAN? So this also, I will take you back way in time again. this technically, it was formed before ASEAN was even formed or was born. So before ASEAN was formed, there was 3 countries altogether. It started off with Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand. And these 3 countries were formed and they had an association called the Association of Southeast Asia. And it was formed in 1961. And as years passed, there had been a dispute between Indonesia and Philippines, where from there, Indonesia and Philippines accused or believed that Malaysia, where it was formed in 16 September 1963, they thought that Malaysia was just another colonized country, or it can be said as a country that was colonized by other big countries. And then this dispute was given a slogan called Gayang Malaysia. And this dispute went on for about a year, from 1965 to 1966. And eventually this dispute ended, and all the Southeast Asian countries felt that they should have a meeting. And this meeting was specifically to have peace among all the countries. And on 8th of August 1967, so the ASEAN was formed. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations was formed. And on that day itself, Malaysia officially joined ASEAN on 8th of August 1967.
Wow, so Malaysia is one of the founding members of ASEAN. It must play a huge role in ASEAN. Can you elaborate more on that? What role does Malaysia play in ASEAN today?
All right, so as this is the topic, our main topic, the role of Malaysia in ASEAN. So there's 3 important roles that I have felt that Malaysia has played a very important role in it. And one of its role is guaranteeing the prosperity and the security of the Southeast Asian countries and the national security. This means that Malaysia plays a big role in the security of ASEAN, the region. And from there, its national securities, where it is to maintain a good relationship among all the ASEAN countries, as we all follow the ASEAN rules and at the same time abiding to the principles of the United Nations. Another point of the roles of Malaysia in ASEAN is the international cooperation and foreign relations. Malaysia played this role very big, as it is to have a great relationship with other countries. And from there, it could increase the diplomatic relationships among other countries. And it is involving politics, social and economical, and also cultural among the ASEAN countries and also around the world. And the final role that Malaysia plays in ASEAN is very, very important too, where they find new ways to achieve and safeguard national interests. This means that they find new ways, as the intergovernmental environment are always changing. If you look back to last time and now, it's always changing. And it changed as the foreign development of the environment is changing. So the priority and concept is based on each prime minister itself.
Okay, so obviously Malaysia plays a huge role in ASEAN. Malaysia contributes a lot to ASEAN. But what do we get in return? What benefits does ASEAN bring to Malaysia?
All right, so the benefits of ASEAN that brings to Malaysia itself. One of its benefits is a better diplomatic relationship among Southeast Asian countries and other countries in the world. This means that we will have a better relationship with other ASEAN countries from Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and many more. And also countries around the world, from Europe, from North America, many countries around the world. And this will improve our relationship with all the countries, and we'll have peace, and there will be no war or violence, as in today's world, we do not need that. We do not need it actually. And another point is better trading point for the country. So as we know, from last time till now, Malaysia has been full of resources. And one of our resources that is famous is our palm oil. And this has been a great trading point for Malaysia. And ASEAN bring this to Malaysia as we have many resources, and many traders come to Malaysia as we have great resources, and they plan to have great tradings with us. And the final point of benefits that ASEAN brings to Malaysia is hosting or holding many different programs relating to ASEAN. And this means that we as Malaysia, the country, we can be able to host or hold many different programs relating to ASEAN. And it shows how versatile we are, how good we are in having or holding this type of programs which is relating to ASEAN.
Okay, so we know that Malaysia plays a huge role in ASEAN, and ASEAN also brings a lot of benefits to Malaysia. But what would ASEAN be like without Malaysia as one of its members?
That's a great question, Sony. So, what would ASEAN be without Malaysia? Let's think back. If we think back from 1960s, before ASEAN was even built, it was started with ASA, which is the Association of Southeast Asia, where it consists of Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand. So without Malaysia, ASEAN would not be here today as it is. Why I say this? Without ASA, there would not be ASEAN. And without Malaysia in ASEAN, there would never be an agreement of document among all the ASEAN countries, or among the 5 countries that were set in the main hall of the Department of Foreign Affairs in Bangkok, Thailand. Another point is ASEAN, even though ASEAN will be here today, ASEAN will be like a missing piece of puzzle. Why I say this is because every ASEAN country plays a very big role in ASEAN. And without a country in it, ASEAN will not be like its normal times. It will not be itself. And another last point is ASEAN will lack manpower in terms of security of the nations. This is reason as Malaysia security is, I can say that is strong. And imagine a country that is bigger tries to conquer or colonize Malaysia today, or any ASEAN countries. We would need all the support we need in today's world. And each country, as I said earlier, it plays a big role. And with Malaysia together, we will have a better security and a better manpower. But if ASEAN would not be with Malaysia today, the security and manpower will not be as it is.
All right. So we know that recently that the United Kingdom left the European Union, and it's still a matter of debate on whether or not that was a good decision. But what about Malaysia and ASEAN? In your expert opinion, do you think it is better to be part of ASEAN or not to be part of ASEAN?
In my opinion, it is better to be part of ASEAN. There are reasons why I say this. It's not just for fun. There's great reasons to it. And one of it is because a country will be better and will be able to have better relationship with other ASEAN countries. In today's world, we need to be together. And a country with everyone together, we will have great diplomatic relationships with each other, and great peace, great stability, and camaraderie among all the ASEAN countries. And another point is because it shows a country wants peace and stability among all the Southeast Asian countries. And today, in my opinion, war, violence, why do we need it? We just need peace and stability. among all the countries and even all the Southeast Asian countries. And finally, the last point, it also makes the country stronger in many aspects. We can imagine Malaysia being a part of ASEAN. We can be better in our industry in terms of our tradings, our investments, and also in our safe labor, where we send out labor to all over the country to help out each other. That is why I say it is a good thing or better to be a part of ASEAN in today's world.
All right, Mr. Gerald, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us the invaluable knowledge about ASEAN and Malaysia's role in the association. I'm sure everyone listening in just now would be more well informed about ASEAN and Malaysia's role in it now. So everyone, please give a round of applause again for Mr. Gerald. All right, that's all for today, everyone. You're welcome. Thanks. That's all for today, everyone. Have a nice day, and we'll see you soon.